I didn't end up enjoying Lightyear Frontier's early access launch quite as much as I thought I would. There are parts I loved, but they were overshadowed by the stuff I didn't love. Therefore, I'm going to be saying a lot of negative things in this video, much more than I usually do, but know that these suggestions come from a place of love because I want to see this game succeed. For an early access title, Lightyear Frontier is super polished. I didn't run into any bugs, it doesn't seem like there are any huge mechanics or anything missing, so it feels like it has a full gameplay loop already. Also, I was provided with a review copy. The game is expected to be in early access for about a year and a half, which would put a full release around September 2025 at the earliest. And here is the current content roadmap, which includes plenty of room for bug fixes and community suggestions, new features like being able to keep animals on your farm, and eventually more biomes and story progression. Now, I will be making some comparisons to Stardew Valley because it's what I'd consider to be the ultimate farming game. I've been putting a ton of hours into the 1.6 update, and switching over to Lightyear Frontier was painful at times. And maybe this comparison isn't 100% fair. Stardew has been out for 8 years now, but it's at least a marker of where Lightyear Frontier could progress in the future. This game is beautiful and colorful. I loved wandering around, discovering new plants, and growing these weird seeds in my garden. But I did not love the slow, clunky movement, lack of any direction or hints when it came to finding resources, and most of all, having to craft 20 chests to hold all my junk. This game has an inventory issue. Things go by weight rather than being capped at a number like 999 in Stardew. That means if you're going out to collect heavier resources like rock or metal, you're going to be walking around extra slowly. What's even worse is that the chests are also limited by weight rather than amount. Why? They're sitting on the ground, it doesn't matter how heavy they are. You do unlock silos and storage sheds later into the game, but by this point it would have been too tedious for me to reorganize everything I had collected so far. Because of this, all my resources were dumped into random chests, but your crafting stations can pull from any chest in the vicinity, so I guess you don't really need to keep track of where your stuff is. Another pain point for me was the movement speed. Yes, you can upgrade your mech, but you still just move a bit too slowly, especially for the size of the map. In Stardew Valley, you also move kinda slow, but the map is much more compact and there are ways to get around it more quickly later on in the game. I'd love to see an option to teleport back to your homestead at the end of the day, or even the ability to add wheels to your mech and turn it into some sort of off-road vehicle. I get it that you're in this heavy mech that's supposed to feel weighty and slow, but this realism I think hinders the experience of exploring freely. But both this and the inventory weight limit are both things that could be changed and updated pretty easily, not like core features of Lightyear Frontier's gameplay. So what did I think of that? If you generally like wandering around and gathering resources, bringing them back to your farm and turning them into new items, there's plenty of that here. I especially enjoyed the process of cleaning up and unlocking new regions. You'll come across areas that are covered with slime or weeds, and you need to get rid of these before resources will start spawning there. This is a pretty cool idea, but it really does suck when you haul yourself all the way across the map, only to see that you need to upgrade your tools to wash away the slime that, mind you, looks exactly like the slime that you got rid of in a different area. And okay, it's good to have some things that are initially unavailable to the player so they have something to work for. But when you make it back home only to realize all the resources you need to upgrade your tool are things you've never seen or even heard of, it can get a little discouraging. So I'd love to see this worked into the story more. Hints about where to find certain ores or plants. Maybe something like the secret notes you can dig up in Stardew that cleverly hint at places to go and things to try out. Alright, I covered the inventory, movement speed, and resource collecting. The last thing that stood out to me that could be improved is the day-night cycle. In Lightyear Frontier, you don't need to go to bed, and when nighttime rolls around, the only thing that changes is it gets dark out. But I did find myself frequently sleeping just to avoid fumbling around in this darkness. It felt like the day passed by pretty quickly and the night overstayed its welcome, and I've seen others point this out in reviews too. For some reason, I found it started to get dark whenever the clock hit noon. Not evening, but noon, which should be the brightest time of the day. Quite bizarre. Now, I'd like to end this video with a couple small things that I liked. I mentioned the look of the game and weird alien environments. It is very beautiful and peaceful. There are already a lot of ways you can decorate your farm, but personally I'm not the kind of person to spend a lot of time moving things around to make it look pretty. Same goes for the mech, cool customization options, but I spent most of my time in the suit, so I don't really care how it looks. But all this stuff is here for the people who do want to put in the extra effort to make this place feel more like home. This also does seem like a really great game to play in multiplayer. You could collect resources a lot more quickly and grow and harvest way more crops at one time. And I guess it kinda does feel lonely just exploring by yourself. According to the roadmap, a neighbor friendship system is in the works, so I'm curious to see how that will play out. For the right player, I believe Lightyear Frontier could be a worthwhile purchase in its early access state, but for me, I would personally wait a bit to see what future updates bring. As with any early access title though, it's always a gamble how the game will turn out in the end. So I'm hoping that after a clunky start, the devs at Framebreak will be able to buff out some of these pain points and tune that mech engine to perfection.